deck from everything Mother Nature can throw at it. It's been a secret of the pros for years. Now you can get in on it. Timeless stain from PPG starting at $44.97 a gallon. Exclusively at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing.
I'm attorney Mike Brandner. When you're hurt in a car wreck, time matters. The time it takes you to call for help, the time it takes you to get medical treatment, and the time it takes you to call an attorney can all affect the value of your case. We have a team of professionals and experts waiting to begin working on your case the moment you call. The faster you call us, the faster we can get you the money you deserve. In a wreck? Need a check? Call Mike Brandner today. We're available 24/7, 345-1111.
Hurt in a wreck, Mike Brandner, the one. Call 345-1111.
Hi, Eric Ashwood, celebrity chef Scott Craig of Katie's. Scott, you have to be excited about Katie's expanded second floor seating and private dining rooms.
Yeah, but how about my vast local sports knowledge?
You know sports, but shouldn't we be talking about your award-winning Sunday brunch?
I'd rather talk about the Saints and the Pels.
How about your award-winning pizza or daily specials?
How about them Saints?
I admit you have a great take on local sports, but what about Katie's award-winning menu?
Okay, folks, I invite you to dine at Katie's. Eric and I don't have to brag about the food at Katie's. The food speaks for itself.
Katie's open 7 days a week in the heart of Mid-City at 3701 Opperville.
There's a difference between do it yourself and do it for a living. At the Home Depot, we get that. And we're here to help pros get the job done with the products and brands you trust. Technology to keep your job on track. Job site delivery to save you time. And bulk pricing on over 4,000 items every day to save you money. When you've got a job, we're on the job. The Home Depot. More saving, more doing.
Avengers: Infinity War is breaking box office records in North America. The latest Disney Marvel film is estimated to sell $250 million in tickets, which makes it the biggest opening weekend of all time in the U.S. and Canada. Coming second is last week's top movie, A Quiet Place, which sold nearly $11 million worth of tickets. And rounding out the week's top five are the Amy Schumer comedy, I Feel Pretty, Rampage starring Dwayne Johnson, and Black Panther. Sunday night's episode of The Simpsons set another milestone. The episode, entitled Forgive and Regret, was the 636th since the show debuted in Fox in 1989. The animated series has surpassed the record number of the highest number of scripted episodes for any primetime show that had previously been held by Gunsmoke.
I never ever stopped fighting for the people, actually wearing a hat to show people that we equal.
Kanye West out with a new song defending his support of President Trump in a recent tweet in which he praised the president, saying they both had dragon energy. His song Ye versus the People with rapper T.I. made its debut on Friday, and the very first woman to direct a Star Trek feature has been named. Variety reports S.J. Clarkson will helm Star Trek IV, starring Chris Hemsworth, Chris Pine, and Zachary Quinto. That's entertainment. Sue Guzman, NBC News Radio.
Dunc and Holder on a Monday, April 30th. Larry Holder, Jeff Duncan, Clyde Verdun, Dave DeCourbier. We're back together again in the iHeart Studios. As I guess I'm not as sunburnt as I was a few days ago, because after 3 days out at the Zurich Classic of New Orleans, then I'm just cooped up watching the draft, while Jeff, I'm sure, is still fried from Zurich Classic love. Out there all weekend.
Notice I got some color.
I've definitely noticed you've gotten some color. You will look very, I don't know. I'm not going to say like you put on fake tanner to go to the Kentucky Derby to look good, but yeah, you're definitely looking like you're natural glazed.
With my seersucker on, I'm going to look nice and toned.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, because that's what you want in a seersucker, no less.
Yeah, you got to look.
Gotta have contrast.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
light blue.
So I got my seersucker packed, ready to go. Be flying out today, tomorrow, be the Kentucky Derby draw, and we'll try and find a spot to watch the Pelicans game.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, at least it's on national TV.
Boring.
At least it's on national TV. So
these late tips, though, guys.
Yeah,
man.
it's a whale, man.
You know, I mean,
9:30 last night.
I'll be honest.
Tomorrow.
I'll be honest. Saturday night after the draft and everything, once the Pelicans went down huge at halftime, I literally fell asleep
Same
Literally.
here.
Y'all are
sorry.
Way to be committed to the cause, guys.
Late third quarter,
Way to be committed.
Late third quarter, I bailed. I couldn't stay awake.
I didn't just bail. I passed out on my sofa, and then when I woke up,
See, I
it was
respect
the TNT crew post game. I was like, "What?" It was about 12:15. I just happened to wake up, and yeah, it was over.
So sad.
I'm not saying the series is over. I'm like,
we're just saying that game was not. It was not what you wanted.
no. Unlike Jeff's tweet caused mass chaos yesterday with the Pelicans. Mass chaos.
Have you gotten that sarcasm font yet? Because I think there are a lot of people here that are waiting on it. Because
I
that
don't get
sarcasm
it.
font.
What
is
exactly
huge.
did you tweet?
Dude, I
I
don't
went
get it.
searching for it, and I didn't see like how it was.
You didn't delete it, did you?
Something.
No, I never
something
delete a tweet.
not too crazy.
There's nothing to delete. It's not even worth talking about. It's like
I just did.
there's just a little
2 minutes into the show.
group of people
Chaos.
that don't get life. They don't
Don't get
understand. They don't understand anything. It's
That's
not
what
worth
it is.
It's not worth like discussing because it's like trying to discuss with cavemen.
Basically, you're trying to make a little joke, and it went awry.
Well, no, I don't think it went awry. A lot of
To some
people
people.
understood it, and there's like a small pot of people that didn't, and that's why I don't care about it. It's like trying to talk to two hecklers in a 10,000 person concert. I don't care about the two hecklers.
But they could be the loudest hecklers there are. You might not.
They
You
can
might
be
not
loud.
hear the cheers.
There's 9,998 other people there that get it, and I don't care about the two that don't. So moving on.
Moving on. Well, moral of the story is the Pelicans, they went down 123-101 to the Warriors. Game 2 will be tomorrow night, 9:30 tip. Of course, you can listen to that game on our sister station, 99.5 FM WRNO. We'll go through that game. It might honestly not take us that long to go through that game because the Pelicans basically just got whipped in the second quarter, and that was game over. But look, we'll talk Pelicans. Of course, we'll talk the NFL draft, the Saints with their draft class all wrapped up. We'll give our thoughts on the class as a whole. We'll take a look at each individual pick. And I will also give one more honest opinion, even though all of my opinions are honest. But one honesty where if you're going to call up today, 504-260-1280, if you're going to call up and ask me about any of the undrafted rookies that they've signed, I don't know anything about them. Because I don't think... Here's the thing. I'm not sure if every draft pick makes the team, much less any undrafted rookie. Sean Payton admitted after the draft that their class was going to be much smaller because they have a ton of guys under contract already, 7 draft picks. It doesn't leave you much wiggle room. Now, you could start chopping up, which could happen. A couple of guys could be cut. But your undrafted class isn't going to be some major thing, and it's more about the big pieces of the puzzle now on the roster and some of these draft picks you assume are going to come in and play right away, which there aren't that many, to be honest, which we'll go through that as well, Jeff.
Well, I thought the one thing I would say about the undrafteds that was the Deion Yelder, the tight end from Western Kentucky. Clearly, that was a position they wanted to at least bring in some young player, whether they were going to draft one or get an undrafted rookie. And this is a guy they thought enough of to guarantee his salary, so that lets you know he's got a good shot of at least making a practice squad or something. But otherwise, you're right. I think the size of the class alone tells you they don't see a whole lot of value in this class because I don't think they think very many will make the roster.
And they've already beefed up their roster as it is, and so let's be honest. How many times do they actually draft 7 players? A lot of years they draft 6, 5 because they're wheeling and dealing or had made trades in the previous year. I know in other years they've had bigger classes, but they've beefed up enough to where they could be selective in some of their guys. And look, and we'll go through some of this later on in the show. I feel like, say, in maybe a couple of those 5th-round picks, a couple of guys came off the board right before they were picking, so they went a different direction with maybe a couple of those defensive backs.
Yep.
So they trusted their board and went that direction. But we'll go through all of that. Also, LSU players, some falling, some being drafted, and one who never even had to leave his house. Sean Payton could have just walked over to his house and given him a contract and said, sign it, Will Clapp, because he's not having to go very far. Of course, LSU's Will Clapp as one bold Jeff Duncan prognosticated at least 3 times, right? At least?
At least 3 times.
With that specific pick?
I thought you had it, too.
I had it once.
Yeah, I thought you had it.
I did
it's
have
very
it once.
popular. It made a lot of sense, so we got lucky on that one. But, I mean, let's get back to the draft in general. Overall, it looks like the grades I'm seeing, of course, what a draft day grades or draft class grades mean a day or two later, but it looks like most people are underwhelmed. Most analysts and draftniks underwhelmed by this class.
Yes, they're panning.
Widely. I mean, it's viewed as one of the worst drafts in the entire league from what I've seen. I'm less than enthused about it, but we also know the Saints roster and the fact that they didn't need a whole lot, so they could afford to kind of maybe gamble on some developmental guys and some conversions. So it's a different, draft than it was a year ago. They're a different team than they were a year ago.
Absolutely. And, of course, I did grading. People wanted to read it. There's no doubt about that. My grade is much higher than, say, some national draft analysts, maybe because I'm more familiar with the roster. And also, something that came into play for me, I trust what they're doing. I think that's part of they've built trust with me. And even though I had, and probably the headline alone got people to read it, but the fact where the draft grades were for, say, 4th-round tackle Rick Leonard, my headline was a 300-pick reach, and the scouting service that we trust, NFLDraftScout.com, had him as the 498th top prospect in the draft, and he went 127 to the Saints. And you could say, oh, well, that's one obscure blip on the radar. 2 other places I trust had him as an undrafted guy. CBSSports.com had him as their 327th best prospect on the board. And even that pick on the surface, and if the Saints were, say, 3 years ago doing drafts, I would have given that pick an F. This time, I only gave it a C- because I'm thinking they needed the position. I have more trust in them than I've had in a long time with their prospects. Look, Ryan Ramczyk, great pick. Look, even 4th-round pick David Onyemata a couple years ago, not many of us knew who he was. He's turned out to, and they traded up to go get him. He was seemingly someone who was totally off the grid. That ended up fine, so I was maybe a little generous with some of it. But overall, look, I gave the class a B just because I feel like they've got some talented players, some better than others. And this is going to sound weird. I love the Will Clapp pick, not just because of the local ties. I think he can come in and be a good player, and he could fit and be the Senio Kelemete as being able to play guard, play center. Maybe he develops into your center in a couple of years once Max Unger is gone. I mean, I think that's someone you could possibly see do that.
Well, look, they took Zach Strief in 2006 in the 7th round, and he didn't really contribute much for 2 or 3 years, didn't do anything but just develop and get better and learn. And I think that's what Will Clapp will do. He's not going to be rushed into the lineup. Most of these guys...
Paul Leonard as well.
Yeah, most of those guys they took Rick Leonard, right?
Oh, Rick Leonard.
Yeah, Rick Leonard.
I keep saying, I don't know why I say
Paul
Leonard.
But the same thing. Yeah, these guys, they're not going to be rushed in there. So I think they took chances on players that they feel like they can develop, and I think it puts a lot of onus, but it also shows a lot of confidence in their coaching staff that they'll develop these guys. Sean Payton said as much with Marcus Davenport that Ryan Nielsen will be with him every day, developing him, because, I mean, he comes in even as a first-round draft pick, raw and coming from a smaller school, not playing against top competition. So it's going to take him a little while. People think he's just going to step in and start beasting on the NFL. Need to temper their expectations.
Also, one thing, he might though. But also one thing that has really just bugged me about the criticism of the Saints drafting Marcus Davenport at number 14 overall. And if you want to put stock in all of the draft pundits out there, where was Marcus Davenport slated to go by seemingly every draft pundit that you can find? Middle of the first round.
Yep.
So why are people ripping the Saints for going to get this kid in the middle of the first round when supposedly every team in the middle of the first round was supposed to draft him in the first place? Give me a break.
No, I know. And you know what's funny is I'm kicking myself, and it's going to sound like Monday morning quarterback here, but I almost almost mocked that exact scenario in my last mock. I was going to have them go up to Seattle. I think they were at 18.
18, yes.
And I didn't know if Davenport would be there by 18, but it was exactly what you're talking about, Larry. Like right around the middle. A lot of people thought Green Bay might take him because they need pass rush help. Seattle, he's the kind of player that Seattle would like. So I almost mocked it, but I was like, I don't know if he's going to be there at 18. And that's where I thought they might be able to work out a trade, work that out with Green Bay. I think the familiarity that Mike McCarthy and Sean Payton have with each other, they're friends. I think that helped consummate a deal. And Green Bay now has another first-round draft pick for next year, so they're loaded going forward. And they were able to get the corner that they wanted. They actually got your guy, Josh Jackson, and Jair Alexander. So I like their draft a lot.
Yeah, I like those two picks from Green Bay. You basically could have your corners of the future right then and there, which is smart. But look, it's different drafts. But because I'm with you, Jeff, I've floated around seeing draft people that I trust, and you're seeing C+, C-, D for the Saints draft class. Okay, that's fine. And someone even asked me what was the grade I gave for the draft class last year. I probably just need to go look it back up. And I'm not even one who was that harsh on the 2018 class, just because I feel like a lot of the picks can make sense. Now, are some of them going to have some challenges making the roster? I do. I think even the two guys they took in the secondary, they could have issues even just making the roster. But at least it's something that they're bringing in competition if they can jump above the rest. A la, we saw, say what you want about Devontae Harris. He still made the roster as an undrafted guy for 2 years. Ken Crawley, undrafted guy, and he was your starter last year. So can someone of these two guys come in and jump them? That's why you draft these guys, because you like them, and so you give them the opportunity in a position where you feel like you're probably in pretty good shape already.
I'm going to make this quick just because I know we're coming up to a break, but I think the main point specifically that I think you two guys are bringing up, which I think goes back to my ever kind of reaching argument that if you want the best, and this isn't a play for us, I don't care where you get it, but as long as you're getting your news locally, you're getting the information that you need. If you're going to go by the national draft experts who have not watched the Saints all year, who didn't watch the Saints all year, who didn't watch every game, weren't at practice, didn't know what was going on daily in the inner circle of what the Saints had going on over the season, they're not going to give you the grade that you think they should get because you're getting all these, hopefully, quote-unquote, diamond in the rough moves.
Hence why Lamar Jackson should have been the pick. I love going, and they showed the first round, I think, after the draft was over, and watching Mike Mayock and all of this go bonkers about Lamar Jackson's going to be the pick, da-da-da. Oh, it's not Lamar Jackson. Well, no.
It was never going to be Lamar Jackson. We told you that. Many people around here told you it wasn't going to be him.
Yeah, I don't understand. That just took on a life of its own, which is the case of a lot of things on the internet.
Also, Mike Mayock saying, Ian, you were so right, buddy, when 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours earlier, he was not right. He was saying this for a quarterback, and hang on as we go to break here.
Stretch it out.
Ooh, I can reach that back. Woo! I'm still doing a great job. I'm still the goat.
Careful.
Ah, that is my tennis arm. Let me do my left arm.
There you go.
Ah, yes. Exactly. If one Larry Holder correctly prognosticated not only the player, but the pick.
At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, no less.
Yes, and I did it on Chris Gordy's show. So as 2:45-ish, something like that.
There you go.
Anyway. I'm never going to let that go.
Don't let the national people insult your intelligence. If you're a fan and you know it, you know what this draft needed, and the Saints, by all accounts, got what they needed.
There we go. All right, we're going to take a deeper dive in the draft, kind of take a look at some of the picks. We'll look at some of where the LSU players went. Perry Nickerson to the Jets. I love that pick by the Jets. We'll talk about that as well. Of course, former Tulane standout. We'll talk Pelicans Warriors. Game 1, rough. What can they do in Game 2 tomorrow night? Zurich Classic, great weekend. A 2-time winner. I think Billy Horschel should just move here.
That's what he said. He said he was looking into real estate.
He's right, because he's a fiery fan favorite now, certainly at Zurich Classic. And we want your phone calls. What do you think about the draft class? Give us a call. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Josh and his show listener bingo board?
Some of the squares include Trump joins the show.
Trump does join the show a lot.
My dad, the term insufferable. Oh, a sentence that starts with when I was in Philly.
Boy.
This guy really pays attention to the show.
Josh Shinnis, mornings 6 to 10 on Sports 1280.
Hey guys, when you're built like a power forward or a power lifter, finding clothes that fit can be a real pain. That's why DXL is a real game changer. DXL is built with a huge selection of clothes, starting at size XL, from Lacoste, Levi's, Brooks Brothers, and more. So stop into one of our 200-plus DXL stores or visit DestinationXL.com to find clothes that look great and fit even better. Built to fit. Built XL. DXL.
There are lots of reasons you love your deck. Staining it is probably not one of them. Choose a stain that will last for years and provide enduring beauty. Timeless stain from PPG only at the Home Depot from $44.97 a gallon. When it goes on and on, year after year, protecting your deck from everything Mother Nature can throw at it. It's been a secret of the pros for years. Now you can get in on it. Timeless stain from PPG starting at $44.97 a gallon. Exclusively at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing.
For game-changing innovation, look to the Latrim family of companies located in Harahan. Intralox, a Latrim company, changed the game when they invented modular plastic conveyor belts over 40 years ago. These belts and innovative Intralox technology are transforming movement in manufacturing facilities around the world. Intralox is a dynamic global company now hiring in production, warehousing, shipping, and more. If you want to be part of our successful team, visit Latrim.com. That's LAITRAM.com.
A study says Google's virtual assistant is smarter than Amazon's. Digital marketing company Stone Temple says Google's assistant attempted the most responses and gets the most attempted responses correct of the nearly 5,000 questions asked in the study. Surprisingly, Microsoft's Cortana took second place, with Amazon's Alexa trailing both and Siri lagging far behind the rest. Of attempted responses, all smart speakers got over 80% of the responses correct. Facebook is adding a sleep mode to its Messenger for Kids app. When activated from the parent's account, access to sending or receiving messages or video calls will be blocked. Parents can set times for whenever they want, like bedtime or dinner. Pinterest will now let users filter hair and beauty search results by skin tone ranges as a way to make it easier to find what you might be looking for. The social media platform says 70% of people use the service to find and save everyday looks and styles. Tech Report, Larry Olson, NBC News Radio.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
I hope you already entered in the Sports 1280 lunch draft. We're going to be picking a winner at some point today. Dave may call you in a creepy robotic voice, as in like if he's trying to get ransom from you. But that actually means you've won.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I'm going to use the voice changer.
Yes, the robotics. I want $11 billion. Or you've won a free lunch with the Dunc and Holder clowns. Yay! And he's like, the person will probably be like, I'll just hand you $11 billion.
Just don't make me go.
Right, exactly.
Can I just pay you?
Please.
Pay you to not go? Somebody entered my name.
Here's a blank check.
Somebody entered my name as a joke.
Exactly. Now, so we'll announce that winner likely tomorrow. That's the word on the street. Likely tomorrow. So looking forward to it. It's going to be a great time. We'll be having lunch over at Deanie's. Oh, my gosh. Jeff is,
let it go.
I love that.
Jeff is good. Something's going to happen.
Don't let it go. Never.
Jeff is
Never.
going to have an apple on his shoulder when he goes to the Kentucky Derby, and a horse is going to bite his whole shoulder. That's what's going to happen. He's going to bite you.
Well, there's a lot of worse things that could happen at a horse stable.
But that might be, like, if Lone Sailor bit you, and that might be what he needed to win the Derby.
As long as I get a video of it, I think we're golden.
That would go viral.
That would be a viral video for sure. I think they like.
So which limb would you like to
peppermints
lose?
more than
peppermints? Okay.
Yeah,
not
peppermints.
apples.
Not. I don't think apple. Maybe they pretty much will eat a lot of stuff.
Like not tin cans like a billy goat.
No, this is not a billy goat.
Okay, just checking.
It is a similar domesticated farm animal.
Not quite the same thing. All right, 504-260-1280. Want to get your thoughts on the Saints in the NFL draft. What do you make of the picks? Let's head up to Minnesota, talk with our buddy Cordell. Hey, Cordell. Thanks for calling Dunc and Holder. What's up?
Hey, guys. How y'all doing today?
We good.
Great, Cordell.
Good. Hey, I just wanted to say I'm totally excited about the draft. I think they did really well. I think you guys hit the nail on the head when you said that most of the pundits from outside of the New Orleans area don't know much about the Saints and what they really need. They just guessing, and just because we didn't pick Lamar Jackson, they want to give us a bad grade. But I just noticed that in some of the websites I've seen have given them a B plus. So. Obviously, those might
NOLA.com's one. NOLA.com gave him a B, so good job, Cordell. Attaway. I'm glad you're reading NOLA.com. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Hey, man, I'm a Saints fan, and again, I'm excited. I'm glad that the Saints was aggressive and moved up to get the guy that they wanted, and I'm not mad that they gave up a first-round pick because I expect to be in the Super Bowl. So there we go.
Love it.
There you go.
Love
Cordell.
it.
All right, buddy. Well, good to hear from you.
Take
care. All right, be safe on the roads up there in Minnesota. And so, look, I think that you see some of the rankings of some of the players and would give you pause. And I'm sure I caused panic day 3, round 4, when I threw out the tweet. I feel like I'm the only person who dug that up and, of course, started causing panic. Like, I know it. I know that's because I never saw a single other person put out that ranking of 498 for Rick Leonard. No one put it out there.
Yeah, I don't know about that pick. That just seemed like a really random shot in the dark selection that maybe they just felt like this guy's got athletic ability and we can develop him down the road, and we have faith in our offensive line coaches to develop him because he clearly was a former defensive lineman. Maybe he's got some athletic skills. One thing that stood out to me in reading evaluations of him was NFL Draft Scouts said he had balance issues, major balance issues. That didn't sound good to me.
No, it didn't. Look, and that's why I said on the surface.
That's like Larry after a few pops down at the chart room or something. We all have balance issues, right?
No question about it. I'm sure there's video. I'm sure there's video somewhere in life of me having balance issues. But that's another show, another day. Well, that actually could be any day.
That might be Friday.
That could definitely be Friday.
I went driving around.
While Jeff's gone, I'm like, I'm losing my mind.
If I don't win.
Dropped because he had sort of issues. Blame Bo Pelini for that drop, for making a mountain out of a molehill up there back when he got drafted. But say someone like Jamon Bushrod, he came out of Towson. He was a 4th-round pick. They didn't have him play right away. He started playing in 2009. He got drafted in 2007, and so maybe something like that develops. All I was saying is on the surface, and it wasn't just one obscure evaluation. There were 4 places all on the board. That's why I wrote what I wrote, saying, "Oh my gosh, this looks insane." But we'll see. I mean, who knows? We don't.
Yeah, nobody knows at this point. I just like their aggressiveness moving up to get Davenport. I mean, he may not pan out. He might be a guy that never develops. Who knows? He may be an All-Pro and a Hall of Famer. It's too early to tell. But I just like that they were aggressive and went after a position that they needed in a area of the team that's been lacking for a number of years. I mean, I had a.
It's like a breath of fresh air. Like, wow, they actually went up and got an edge guy who, by all accounts, was either number 2 or 3 on everyone's list, and obviously by the rest of the NFL, number 2, because Harold Landry didn't go until pick number 41 to the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, it was like a 2-player edge rusher draft, I guess, by most estimations. They weren't going to get Chubb. He was going to go too high. The cost was going to be too high for that. So this was the guy. Makes so much sense. And look, they haven't had a edge rusher with more than 5 sacks other than Cameron Jordan since Junior Gillette. So they had to go get somebody. I mean, this was an area of need. And whether he starts or not, I don't think it matters if he starts or not. And I don't know if he will, but he's going to play a lot. He's going to be on the field in passing situations, no doubt about it. I mean, he will be playing enough snaps.
Interesting tidbit I dug up, and we're going to go to the phone lines here. I know we got Dave in Vegas on hold, but let me just get this tidbit out there, and we'll go to David in Vegas. Since 1987, the Saints have now drafted 9 defensive ends with either their first-round pick or with either a first-round pick or their first pick of the draft. And I make this determination because Darren Howard was a second-round pick, but he was the first pick of their draft. The last 7 of those players, with Davenport you can't count yet, 7 of those players at least had 1 double-digit sack season. You had Cam Jordan, Will Smith, Charles Grant, Darren Howard, Joe Johnson, Ronaldo Turnbull, and Wayne Martin. The 8th player, and I don't think Marcus Davenport's going to be this 8th player, Sean Knight.
Oh,
that's why I went back to 87.
You had to go there.
That's why I went back to 87.
Had to go there.
What? 30 years, right? 30 years. So
he's one of the all-time busts.
Yes.
I mean, top 5 busts.
I called him an eternal draft bust, Sean Knight. Yes. He's easily in the top 5 every time you talk about Saints draft busts. All right, 504-260-1280. Let's hit the phone lines. Let's go to Vegas and talk with David. Hey, David, thanks for holding. Thanks for calling. What you got?
Thanks, guys. It's good to be on with you today. And I'll tell you, it won't matter what the Saints do in the national media because they never will. I mean, outside of last year, they always get killed in the media, national media. I don't know why. I mean, you got this guy, Lance Zierlein, that's on the NFL Network. Oh, well, I can't believe the Saints actually gave up an extra pick to get Davenport. It's like, okay, the guy is a stud defensive end. You know, he's a little raw, and I think even Sean Payton acknowledged that.
Yes, he did.
You can't find these guys. You can't teach 6'6", 270, long arms, explosive, strong, athletic. Those guys don't last. You know, and what I don't understand is people are making it seem like we gave 2 top 5 picks for the guy. I mean, we're at the bottom of the first round. You have to make a move, and you have to be aggressive. If we would have stayed where we're at, we would have probably let him drafting Josh Sweat, which was a 4th-round pick for the Eagles, regardless if you believe the Eagles should have been drafted higher or not. They had knee injuries. He's a talented player, but he's had some injuries. Landry is not a defensive end. He's a 3-4 outside linebacker. He's too small to play defensive end. So you're limited on what you can get at the end of the first round. Now, they could have won offensive line, that sort of thing, but at the end of the day, defensive end has been a Achilles heel, guys, for this team, and you guys have been saying it over and over for years now. I just think that, you know, the national media just keeps crushing us, and it's just ridiculous because Davenport, even if he doesn't start, if he comes and contributed, it's gonna be a good thing because, you know, just like with the Patriots, the Steelers, all the guys that that are successful, they constantly rotate guys in the starting lineup. I mean, into the lineup. So you're not just dependent on one guy. You have multiple guys coming in, and he gives fresh legs. So with him, he's going to come in and learn. Hopefully, Okafor will be healthy when he comes into training camp, and you know all these other guys that we have on the roster, they're all going to contribute. But I also, with Davenport, I also believe we're not limited at defensive end. I think he's obviously a defensive end, but I think even in some packages, they can put him inside. I mean, he's big enough to do that. But I think overall, guys, the draft went well. I like pretty much all the picks. You know, I know the one guy from Wisconsin, the safety, he's a pretty damn good player. I actually see there's a potential for him to make the roster. The other guys are more practice squad. Clapp may make it some way, somehow, or he'll be a practice squad guy. Leonard, I think he's got upside, and the team sees something in him. I don't know what they see in him. Obviously, I don't know too much about him like you guys do. But like with David Onyemata, nobody knew who he was, and he ended up being a very good pick for us. So I just think I'm overall, as a fan, I'm very happy, and I think the team, you know, we have to give them the benefit of the doubt and let them just continue to develop these guys. But all these guys are not going to make the roster. I agree. But I think overall, I think we did a good job, and I agree. B is a good grade, but honestly, we can't really grade anything until the season starts. I think we'll really know more as the season starts and how these guys contribute, and then we can grade it at the end of the year. But the national media just won't give us a break on this. It's just ridiculous. Thank you.
You got it, Dave. I love rational thought. Let's take a break right here on the show. When we get back, we'll talk more. I went and dug up my grades from last year's class. So let me. I was not that. I was. I don't know
what were you saying?
I wasn't. People are like, "Oh, did you rip last year's class?" No, I didn't. So I just by comparison, just curious. So, all right. We'll talk more draft when we come back. We'll talk Pelicans, Warriors, hour number 2, Zurich Classic as well. So don't go anywhere. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Holder.
You'll say the world has come between us. Our lives have come between us. Still, I know you just don't care.
Your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This report is brought to you by Holiday Inn West Bank.
From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz. Today on your Monday should be a nice day, mostly sunny, but a little warmer. The high temp at about 82 to 83. Now tonight, overnight lows drop to the lower 60s, so nice but not as cool. And then for Tuesday, another partly cloudy day, going to be dry at 84. Wednesday, partly cloudy at 85, so we do see a gradual warming trend with no mention of rain all the way through the midweek. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz with your Weather Authority forecast.
Enjoy a breathtaking view of the New Orleans skyline and the mighty Mississippi River from the top of the Holiday Inn West Bank Tower. With a view unlike any other, the Crescent Room is the perfect space for your next wedding, shower, or reunion. Meet their sales team and reserve your special day.
I'm KFC's extra crispy Colonel, and you're the extra busy regular person who has to make dinner for a family of 4. But you can shirk that responsibility because my extra crispy tenders $20 fill-up from KFC contains 12 extra crispy chicken tenders, 4 dipping sauces, 4 biscuits, 2 orders of mashed potatoes, and a side of coleslaw for just $20. And now that'll feed them. KFC, it's extra crispy good.
Pricing and participation may vary. Tax and substitutions extra.
You better get on it if you're planning to sell your house soon. May is the best month to get the best return. That's according to a new study by Adam Data Solutions. It analyzed more than 14 million single-family home sales from 2011 to 2017, and it showed May sales had the biggest premium above estimated market value of any month. The best single day of the year for the highest return, June 28th. It's getting critical reviews, but consumers don't seem to care. The spiffed-up Honda Accord was declared this year's North American Car of the Year at the Detroit Auto Show in January, but Accord sales fell 12% in the first quarter, while sales of the competing Toyota Camry increased about 9%, thanks at least in part to triple the buyer incentives Honda was offering. But sedan sales in the United States overall are in a big slump, to the point where Ford is dropping most of them from its lineup and focusing on still hot-selling SUVs and pickups. It's part of a big overall change in what Americans drive and whether they do at all.
You don't need a car to get around major cities these days.
Eric Howard is a Lyft driver in Atlanta.
If you need to go to the grocery store, most people take a Lyft. If they want to go to the club with their friends or, out to a game.
Yeah, you don't want to bother with parking.
Pay $40 to park at a Falcons game. Who wants to do that when you can take a $10 ride?
The way many of us drive is changing dramatically. Rather than simply allowing customers to buy or lease, some brands are offering monthly car subscriptions in select cities. Other companies letting members rent out their vehicles when they aren't using them, Airbnb style. Chrysler says it started to shift gears away from sedans 2 years ago, but General Motors hasn't, saying it still thinks cars are profitable.
NBC's Gabe Gutierrez reporting. A bushel of economic reports coming up in the business week ahead, including April reports on car sales and manufacturing, March reports on construction spending and factory orders, the trade deficit, also productivity and labor costs in the first quarter, and at the end of the week, the April unemployment and job creation numbers. Consumer and business news. Joe McConnell, NBC News Radio.
It's your home. This is where you talk the home teams. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
People were asking over the weekend, of course, after you do the grades of each pick and the class, what did I grade last year's draft class, just to see if I'm smart or an idiot. And so why don't we go over these real quick, since this segment's kind of short, and then we'll jump back into taking an actual look at some of these draft prospects. All right, let's see how smart I was. Marshawn Lattimore, I gave that pick an A. Ryan Ramczyk, I gave that pick a C+, which obviously that was stupid. But I questioned at that point in time. I'll just read my description. On the surface, this should be a sneaky good pick, and it probably will be a sneaky good pick at some point. It's not Ramczyk's fault. It might not be right now. The Saints admittedly missed out on defensive players like Tack McKinley and Reuben Foster at 32. Two teams traded up to get their guy. Why didn't the Saints, given this was an added pick thanks to the Brandon Cooks trade? So I didn't rip the player. I just ripped the pick. But anyway, that was stupid. Marcus Williams, I gave a B. Alvin Kamara, I gave a B+, maybe instinctively knowing that Adrian Peterson's a total bum. Alex Anzalone, I gave a C+, which I think that's accurate because he only played 4 games for now. Trey Hendrickson, I gave a B. Al-Qadim Muhammad, I gave a B. And the overall class, I gave a B. So, if you want to, you can't rip me for saying, oh, last year's class was a bum class right off the bat. I didn't say that. So, I at least give myself a little bit of credit.
Yeah, no,
I
think last year's class, look, they had, 5 picks in the top 3 rounds last year. Of course it was going to be better. And it was a good draft class to have a lot of picks. It was much deeper than this year's class. I think both times it's worked out well. And these the general manager, Mickey Loomis, Jeff Ireland, Terry Fontenot, the cognoscenti, the brain trust out there, their job is to know which draft classes have talent, which have depth, and they look out 1-2 years down the road when they make deals, when they try to add draft picks. They're thinking about those things. It's not by happenstance that sometimes they end up with that. And I think in this instance, they realized that draft class was a good one to have a lot of picks at early. In this one, you could have picks late and maybe roll the dice on some guys that might pan out, might have high ceilings, and they might not. There was no risk there in some of these late-round picks.
Right. I'll just throw out my grades for this year's class. I gave the overall class a B, and as for each pick, I gave Marcus Davenport a B. I gave Traquan Smith a B. I was trying to grade that one a little lower, but I just think he was best player available. I think he could be a good player for the Saints. I'm not sure if this year is the year, but maybe at some point. I gave the Rick Leonard pick a C-. I already kind of gave you my explanation there. Natrell Jamerson, I think that could be a steal, as our caller earlier alluded to. I gave that pick a B. Cameron Moore, I gave a C. Boston Scott, I gave a B. Will Clapp, I gave an A-. I think that's at that point in time in the draft, that's why I was so high on that pick, and I gave the overall class a B. So hey, that's I'm giving last year's class a B and this year's class a B. Now, how much will this year's class contribute right away? I think it's different. But also, Jeff, and maybe we'll talk about this in the next segment. Before the draft started, I wrote a column saying the Saints were in a very similar position as they were in the 2014 class, going into that year where they didn't have seemingly a lot of holes, and they gambled on some guys. I don't think they necessarily gambled as much in the 18 class as they did in the 14 class. It's not like with their third-round pick that they went and took, say, a Stanley Jean-Baptiste, who that was just total potential. He's tall. Maybe we can develop him. He was a nobody. And I feel like even with the Traquan Smith, for example, if you're comparing, say, day 2 picks, I feel like Traquan Smith comes with legitimacy. He comes with, what kind of player he is. And then a few years ago, you had no idea what Baptiste would be. You had no idea what Ronald Powell would be. I think they took, in their draft slots, they took less risk with these slots, and I feel like that's a change in the scouting department.
Jeff Ireland.
Right, exactly.
I mean, those picks you made earlier, alluded to earlier, were before Jeff Ireland got here. Yeah, before Jeff Ireland got here. And that was also, in defense of Rick Riprish, that was back in the phase when Sean Payton was on this kick to change the defense over to a Seattle defense. They thought Stanley Jean-Baptiste would fit the mode of a Richard Sherman press corner. He had
tall corner,
long, lanky guy. And it was just a time when they were wandering the desert in search of a defense. I think they've got the right guy in place now, Dennis Allen, to run the defense, and they got a player personnel director that can marry what the Saints coaches want in their scheme with the personnel to fit it, and that's why they're doing so well right now, why they're back on track.
Interesting acceptance of an invitation to rookie camp for the Saints. I'll give you that after the break.
Tease.
504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. We'll be talking Pelicans Warriors hour number 2, Zurich Classic as well, and we'll keep going with the draft just because this is our first whole look at it, so we'll keep jumping on here as well. So coming back, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app, Dunc and Holder.
Eric Asher bringing you the truth every day, noon to 2 on Sports 1280. Of course, you can also check me out on the television side, the award-winning Inside New Orleans Sports. Won a Press Club Award back in 2015 for the best TV sports show.
Eric Asher, weekdays, noon to 2, Sports 1280 New Orleans.
You get a strong opinion each and every day.
Disney on Ice presents Dare to Dream, where I can chase adventure like Maui and Moana. Dream big with Rapunzel. Anna proves family is forever. And Belle shows us beauty is found within. At Disney on Ice presents Dare to Dream.
Tickets start at $15. Restrictions and charges may apply. Playing at Lakefront Arena this Thursday through Sunday. Visit DisneyOnIce.com for details.
When you're behind the wheel, phone calls and text messages can have deadly consequences. It's no accident. Road crashes are preventable. Drivers who use cell phones are 4 times more likely to be involved in car wrecks. Stay focused. When you get in the car, put your phone out of reach and silence all notifications. And always set destinations on navigation devices before you leave. Because fewer distractions means safer roads for everyone. Take the pledge not to drive distracted at togetherforsaferroads.org/pledge.
If you're thinking it or doing it, there's an iHeartRadio playlist for it, and you can try it for free right now. iHeartRadio's created a playlist perfect for any mood, activity, or moment in your life. Suddenly, you're the emergency DJ at your friend's house. We got you. There are thousands of iHeartRadio playlists. Find the one perfect for your moment. Road trip, love songs, or maybe you need that workout push. There's a free playlist for that. Try it now. All your favorite music, all your favorite stations, all free. iHeartRadio.
There's a girl in El Salvador who dreams of becoming an engineer. There's an elder in Uganda who dreams of having a community to call his own. No two dreams are the same. Help one person achieve theirs at unbound.org.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Yeah, Spider-Man and Freeze in full effect.
Former Ohio State quarterback J.T. Barrett will be trying out for the Saints at their rookie minicamp. You got a lot of tryout guys. They come in, and J.T. Barrett is one that's coming. Of course, quarterback for Ohio State, big numbers. I'm curious to see how well he performs. Wasn't drafted, so just an interesting tidbit here. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. Let's head out to New Orleans, and Dave, I zoned out. Tim? All right, I guessed right. Tim,
Hey,
thanks for
Larry.
calling. What's up, buddy?
Yeah, I just think they blew it on that second-round pick, Saquon Smith. They should have went with Kiki Cochi out of Texas Tech. He took over that bowl game last year, man. This guy's tall, he's fast, he's got hands. They blew it, man. I just think they could have drafted him. He went right after that guy, so I just think they blew it, man. They should have went with the guy, Cochi.
All right. Well, Tim, appreciate the phone call. I know that's someone I know I've put in a mock draft, Kiki Cochi. I think he has some return ability. Kiki Cochi went, I'd like to say he went early in the fourth round.
He went 103rd. He went
103.
103 to the Texans.
Yeah, third pick of the fourth round at 103. So around pretty close. Pretty
different
similar.
kind of player.
Definitely
though.
a different kind of player.
Yeah, I mean more of a kind of a smaller, undersized, quick guy, speedy. But Traquan Smith's more of a, I don't know. He's more of maybe a wide receiver as opposed to.
I think he's Cameron Meredith, to be honest
Right.
with you. I think they're kind of the same mold. And when they made the pick, I asked Mickey Loomis if that's why they took him, if there were any injury concerns with Cameron Meredith coming in. Of course, he's coming off of the knee injury, but they've gotten him. And Jeff, okay, the Traquan Smith pick. Let's just go through wide receiver right now. I think they're log jam there. They're going to have to do something as far as you've got. If you account for Traquan Smith as your top 5 wide receivers, you got him, of course, Michael Thomas, Ted Ginn, Meredith, and Brandon Coleman. And usually, say that 5th wide receiver spot, they like to have maybe a special teams returner kind of guy.
That's Tommy Lee Lewis.
Lee Lewis. Look, they've also got Austin Carr on the roster. Remember him?
Yep.
Also fighting for a roster spot again is former LSU wide receiver Traven Doral. He's still back with the Saints. So I'm curious to see what they do at that position because by all accounts, I assume Traquan Smith's on the roster. Does that mean Brandon Coleman's in trouble? Is in trouble? I mean, he's back only on a 1-year deal.
He's in trouble. I mean, he's got a make or break season ahead of him.
Well, make or break camp again. I feel like we say that every
Doral
year.
is still eligible for practice squad.
Yes.
Austin Carr is a guy I think they like. Keep him. You keep 6 wide receivers probably. That's how it probably will work out. But the other guy that's in trouble is Tommy Lee Lewis. I'm not saying trouble, in jeopardy of maybe his roster spot because it's so competitive there. And you brought in, you drafted this young kid that can return kicks, Boston Scott from from Louisiana Tech. So they'll see who's the best return man. If Scott doesn't work out, they keep Tommy Lee Lewis. But that's a position in an area this team they've struggled with the last few years.
Absolutely. All right, 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved in the show. Let's head down to Bell Chase. Dave, who we got? Mike and Bell Chase. Mike, thanks for calling Dunc and Holder. What's up, Mike?
Hey, great. Thanks for taking the call.
Sure.
I got this question. I've been burning all weekend. I'm trying to figure out why they let Willie Snead go when they could have picked him up for so cheap, and then they expend a second-round pick on a wide receiver. I just don't get that. Was there more going on there with Willie Snead? Were they that ticked off about that DUI, or was he not performing? Because I just thought that was odd, because I thought they could have got a really good deal on him.
Hey, Mike, appreciate the phone call and valid question about Willie Snead. Well, they let Willie Snead walk. Basically, they took Cameron Meredith instead of Willie Snead, and both were restricted free agents. I think they were ready to move on from Willie Snead. They signed him to the tender as insurance. Once they got Cameron Meredith, okay, they were ready to move forward. They brought back Brandon Coleman for a year, and they went into the draft, I'm assuming, looking for a wide receiver. I think even Mickey Loomis said this was a position where it was best player available, but it didn't surprise me that they went wide receiver. And look, I think once you get into that spot where he was basically in Sean Payton doghouse. And from people I talked to, just when Willie Snead got into the accident and arrested for DWI, that look, the crime scene over there, not crime scene. Well, I guess it was a crime, but the scene. He's lucky to be alive. Like it was not pretty, and I could tell you that played a role in them ready to move on, and he was suspended, and they obviously moved on without him, and the offense performed just as well.
I think the moral of the story there, in addition to the severity of the crime, is if you're going to have those kind of off-field issues, you've got to be a star in the NFL. You've got to be a superstar type of player. Willie Snead is a role player, and he's a guy that's kind of fought to work his way into the league, but he's not someone that's going to have a lot of second chances in this league, unfortunately.
You don't get the cachet, is what you're saying.
I mean, I can remember having conversations with Steve Gleason when he played. He was always a guy at the end of the roster, and always having to make the team in camp. And so we all know him now. He's a very candid, outspoken guy. But when he played, he was never that way because he couldn't afford to. And he used to tell me, someone like Scott Fujita, he can be candid and outspoken. He's got skins on the wall and got a multi-year contract. Steve could never afford to do that because he would have been cut loose.
Steve was just the quirky, fun guy in the locker room, but he wasn't outward.
Yes.
Like some of the Fujita's a good example.
Yeah, like guys that speak their mind. Will Smith used to speak his mind.
Right.
Cam Jordan now speaks his mind. They can afford to do it. The guys like Willie Snead can't, and they can't afford to have these kind of off-field incidents.
Yeah, I would agree. Look, I got no problem with the Traquan Smith pick because he's got speed. Ted Ginn's not going to be around forever. Traquan Smith is a 4-year player at least because you got him for cheap and is a 4-year contract. Ted Ginn might be off the roster after this year. Who knows? Because he's on the back end of his career, and it's something that you look at the board. And here's a good example. And maybe I want to go through some of these as we go through the show. And I guess we're going to be draft heavy because we could talk Pelicans because the series isn't over. But probably be pretty draft heavy. Like Deidrin Sanat, the defensive tackle from South Florida. He went to Atlanta at 90. I could have seen the Saints taking him at 91.
I think I had him mocked there.
I've had him in plenty of my mocks. Also, some players say like in round 4. Well, I liked Ito Smith, and he went right before to the Falcons as well. But the Saints ended up taking Boston Scott. But I know in round 5 there were a couple of players that came off the board where I was like, man, that would have been good for the Saints. One of them was Tyler Conklin, the tight end from Central Michigan. The other was Tim Settle, the defensive tackle from Virginia Tech. Both of them came off the board seemingly right. Tim Settle came off the board right before they took Natrell Jamerson, and Tyler Conklin came off the board 3 or 4 picks before. So those were 2 guys I thought maybe they would have targeted.
And I had Traquan Smith mocked on one time in the 3rd round, right where they took him. He's a guy compared to Allen Robinson, and he's actually graded higher than the guy from Texas Tech by the NFL Draft Scout. So
yeah, I agree. All right, hour number 1 is up. Hour number 2 is on the way. We'll talk a little bit more about the draft, but we will dive in about the Pelicans and Warriors if you want to get involved. 504-260-1280. Also recap the Zurich Classic. Awesome tournament. Awesome weather. Walk-up music?
Yes.
Were you yay or nay?
Oh, I was all over it. They got to tweak it a little bit, though. I'll go into that on the.
That's where I was going to go to next. So, all right, come on back for hour number 2 here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Swaying through the band, moving like a hammer. She's a miracle man. Loving is the ocean, kissing is the wet sand. She's got the look.
I'm KFC's Extra Crispy Colonel, and you're the extra busy regular person who has to make dinner for a family of 4. But you can shirk that responsibility because my Extra Crispy Tenders $20 fill-up from KFC contains 12 extra crispy chicken tenders, 4 dipping sauces, 4 biscuits, 2 orders of mashed potatoes, and a side of coleslaw for just $20. And now that'll feed them. KFC, it's extra crispy good.
Pricing and participation may vary. Tax and substitutions extra.
As a marketer, you want to reach everyone, adults, teens, millennials, but it's not like these groups all hang out in the same place, right? Actually, wrong. They're all right here listening to radio commercials just like this one. Radio ads connect 93% of Americans every week. That's more than Google, more than Facebook, more than TV. In fact, radio reaches 20% more millennials than TV. Want more of the people you want to talk to all in one place? You want to get to iHeartMedia.com and get AM/FM working for you.
WODT WNOE FM HD2 New Orleans. Listen on the free iHeartRadio app. Search Sports 1280.
Fox Sports trending now.
The Cavaliers are on to the second round of the NBA playoffs after eliminating the Pacers 105-101 in their first-round Game 7 matchup. Not often a LeBron James-led team has been forced to play in a Game 7. James credits a tough Pacers team, especially Victor Oladipo.
Obviously, the head of the snake and Vic, unbelievable jump from last year to this year. We all saw it, and he proved it. Why he's a franchise caliber player, and everybody on down, man. They just got a well-rounded team. Definitely pushed us.
LeBron finished with 45 points, had some cramping, though, late in the third quarter and watched his teammates build on the lead until he could return, but Cleveland advances to face top Eastern seed Toronto in round 2. Celtics guard Jaylen Brown is doubtful for tonight's Game 1 of Boston's Eastern Conference semifinal series against the 76ers because of a sprained right hamstring. I'm Deb Carson.
We are your shot at $1,000 now. Text the keyword BANK to 200-200. You'll get a text confirming entry plus iHeartRadio info. Standard data and message rates apply. That's BANK to 200-200.
There are lots of reasons you love your deck. Staining it is probably not one of them. Choose a stain that will last for years and provide enduring beauty. Timeless stain from PPG only at the Home Depot from $44.97 a gallon. When it goes on and on, year after year, protecting your deck from everything Mother Nature can throw at it. It's been a secret of the pros for years. Now you can get in on it. Timeless stain from PPG starting at $44.97 a gallon. Exclusively at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing.
9,997. No.
Suppose Thomas Edison had given up.
9,998.
But his failures only led him to the next idea.
9,999.
Picture Times Square, dim, Las Vegas dark, your home black. Picture no electric light.
10,000. Come on.
Optimism. Pass it on from the Foundation for a Better Life at values.com.
Mr. Ed's Seafood and Italian Restaurant, serving the best fried chicken in town. Fresh Louisiana seafood as well as delicious Italian dishes. Try our daily chef specials or an overstuffed po' boy. Open Monday through Saturday from 11 a.m. till 9 p.m. with 2 locations to serve you. In Bucktown at 1001 Live Oak between Bonneville and Lake Avenue, or in Kenner at 910 West Esplanade at Chateau Boulevard. Let Mr. Ed's cater your next event. Mr. Ed's Seafood and Italian Restaurant. 2 great locations, 1 great menu. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House, now open in the quarter 7 days a week at 512 Bienville.
This week on Big Easy Deals, get a family 4-pack to the Audubon Zoo for just $38. Check out the exotic mix of animals from around the globe. Don't miss the Watoto Walk, the playful monkeys, or the mysterious white alligators. Go to FoxSportsAM1280.com. Keyword deals.
For over 80 years, in the heart of Mid-City, where it's always been, is a New Orleans tradition, Mandina's Restaurant. Come in for some New Orleans staples, old-style New Orleans food, atmosphere, and some of the best seafood in the city. Always New Orleans, always the best, always Mandina's.
When you're behind the wheel, fiddling with the radio or looking for the perfect playlist on your phone can have deadly consequences. It's no accident. Road crashes are preventable, and any action that distracts you from driving is dangerous. Nearly 300,000 pedestrians die in traffic collisions worldwide every year. Stay focused as a driver, especially at night. That's when most pedestrian fatalities occur. Don't let radios or cell phones take your attention away from the road. Take the pledge to be alert and aware at togetherforsaferroads.org/pledge.
Avengers: Infinity War is breaking box office records in North America. The latest Disney Marvel film is estimated to sell $250 million in tickets, which makes it the biggest opening weekend of all time in the U.S. and Canada. Coming second is last week's top movie, A Quiet Place, which sold nearly $11 million worth of tickets. And rounding out the week's top 5 are the Amy Schumer comedy, I Feel Pretty, Rampage starring Dwayne Johnson, and Black Panther. Sunday night's episode of The Simpsons set another milestone. The episode entitled Forgive and Regret was the 636th since the show debuted in Fox in 1989. The animated series has surpassed the record number of the highest number of scripted episodes for any primetime show that had previously been held by Gunsmoke.
I never ever stopped fighting for the people, actually wearing a hat to show people that we equal.
Kanye West out with a new song defending his support of President Trump in a recent tweet in which he praised the president, saying they both had dragon energy. His song Ye versus the People with rapper T.I. made its debut on Friday. And the very first woman to direct a Star Trek feature has been named. Variety reports S.J. Clarkson will helm Star Trek IV, starring Chris Hemsworth, Chris Pine, and Zachary Quinto. That's entertainment. Sue Guzman, NBC News Radio.
Dunc and Holder, hour number 2 on a Monday, April 30th. Larry Holder, Jeff Duncan, Clyde Verdun, Dave DeCourbier back together again in the iHeart Studios as we've been out and about, basically, I guess, cooling off from the Zurich Classic of New Orleans. I think the golfers understood that the heat came in and wondering where it came from, and guess what, folks? That's not going to be gone for another 6 months, at least.
Yeah,
October.
It was nice while it lasted.
It's going to be normal weather around here.
Yeah.
Yes.
We were talking about that off air about how, with Jeff being out at it, with us 3 being out at the Zurich for 3 days in kind of varying weather, but like still really good weather. And then Sunday for Jeff out at the golf tournament, Mia Jazz Fest. It was like, well, we're back.
It got hot.
again, I hope everybody enjoyed the quote-unquote winner.
Right. We had a little bit, like 3 days probably.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, you okay? You good?
Yeah. It was look. The Zurich was a tremendous success. I think it was probably, without question, the best tournament they've ever had in terms of competitive field, talent, star players. Not very many of them made the cut, unfortunately, onto the into the third and fourth round. But the big news yesterday, of course, Zurich Insurance announcing that they are re-upping and extending their sponsorship through 2026. That will be 21 years. And as the champion, one of the winning team partners, Billy Horschel, said yesterday, that just doesn't happen very often. I mean, how many years did the tournament go through different title sponsors?
Compaq and
HP,
whatever, right?
Yeah, and it's just went through a bunch of different title sponsors. Now they've had Zurich, who's one of the best title sponsors on tour, on board now for 21 years. That's huge for the tournament, and the walk-up music I think was a huge hit. At least with the players, for sure. I liked it a lot. Like I said, I think they got to tweak it a little bit, and they know that because it's the first time anybody's ever tried to do something like that, and they're going to try to tweak the formula and how they do it. But players in general loved it. It was fun. You could see a side of the player's personality that you don't get to see a lot during the tournament or during competition. So I think it was definitely a hit, and numerous players said it's yet another thing that makes them want to come to New Orleans. So I think that's a good thing.
All right, we'll dive more into that later on in the show. But if you want to get involved, talking Saints, NFL Draft. We'll be talking Pelicans, Warriors later on in hour number 2. But let's hit the phone lines, 504-260-1280. Let's head to the North Shore, talk with Chris. Hey, Chris, thanks for giving us a buzz. What you got?
Thanks, guys. Looking at these the draft, it's all about projections and guesses, and looking back, you never know till 2 or 3 years later. But having said that, when I see the Saints draft, us moving up doesn't always work out. And in this draft, what I'd like you guys to maybe address, who knows? We could have had Taven Bryant at 27. I know he's not an edge rusher, but I looked at their kind of grades, kind of before the draft grades, and they kind of graded out about the same. Maybe he doesn't have as much upside, but I just thought that might have been a better play. And I always like to stay and put or trading back.
All right, Chris, hey, appreciate the phone call. I know one of my mocks, I did have Taven Bryan going to the Saints, but here's you can look back on it now and say, oh, wow, a guy fell. But at the time, you have no idea. And if you are hell-bent on a pass rusher, this draft was not majorly high with pass rushing help. We all knew Bradley Chubb. After that, Marcus Davenport and then Harold Landry, depending on the eye of the beholder. Obviously, after Davenport went off the board, anyone with a defensive end need waited till the second round. Tennessee took him at pick number 41. So if you're sitting there basically at the mercy of the draft, what would you rather? Would you rather them be at the mercy of the draft? What if this guy goes off the board and then they're having to take a player at 27 maybe they like, maybe they're not in love with, but they're in love with Marcus Davenport. There's no question. You make that move to go get a pass rusher, someone they feel like that could be explosive, and they went and got him. I'm not going to fault the Saints for that because you mentioned a specific player. He falls past where the Saints would have been. You have no idea that's going to happen. I mean, you don't know. That's the problem when you're so far down in the draft. Obviously, you're still a good team, but when you're that far down in the draft and you've got a glaring need, I do not fault the Saints at all for going up and addressing that glaring need.
No, and I think they're different players. Taven Bryan is a defensive tackle. He ran a 4.98 40. I mean, he's an interior disruptor, and they already have one of those guys in Sheldon Rankins. Yes, I could see the prospect of drafting that guy, but they need a guy off the edge opposite Cam Jordan. That's their biggest need. They've had that for years. They can't count on Alex Okafor. This is a guy, Marcus Davenport, that ran a 4.58 40. He's 6'5", 264. You just don't find guys like that big, with that kind of size, with that kind of potential, too. I mean, he has a high ceiling, as they say, has a chance to get a lot better with coaching, getting into an NFL weight room, strength and conditioning program. He could take it to another level, whereas I think Brian is more of an interior guy. Now, he might be good. He might be hell on wheels at defensive tackle. But I think they wanted to get somebody as a bookend opposite Cam Jordan. That was their top priority.
Yes, and if the Saints would have stayed put and they would have taken Taven Bryan, I would have been fine with that too, because I think he's someone who we know that the Saints were looking at defensive tackle this offseason. You don't go look at Muhammad Wilkerson. You don't go looking at Ndamukong Suh if you don't feel like you maybe want to address that position. And that's what I thought. Maybe someone like Deidrin Senat or Tim Settle, someone like that, more of a nose, could be someone that they looked at later on in the draft because of the opening where you feel like you've got 3 defensive tackles that you like, but you still need a 4th. And what happened with Nick Fairley, that's why I think they stayed away from Maurice Hurst.
Yes, and he dropped.
And he dropped big time. Mm-hmm. Big time.
So and Arden Key dropped like we thought he would. He went way down.
Well, he didn't drop as far as I thought he would drop. I thought maybe he'd drop at
third round,
3, right?
Third round, right?
Yeah.
Who took him?
The Raiders.
Oh, well. Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
John Gruden
bringing back that reputation.
Not afraid to take a chance on a player.
Old school.
We may look back on this, and it may be a huge steal for the Raiders.
And I think at that point, everybody was on the what is going on with Darius Geis train that everybody forgot about Arden for a while because it was like, wait, what's going on? Wait, what happening? Is there a TMZ report? Is there not a TMZ report? Just awful that pretty much unfortunately dominated the headlines as opposed to what we knew was already going to happen with Arden anyway.
Well, maybe Arden could thank him. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true too. That's a good point.
Because he would be talked about a lot from dropping, but not to the scope as Darius Geis. And guys, next segment, let's talk about the LSU picks because I feel like you brought up Geis, certainly an interesting proposition, and some of these LSU guys, a lot. I think what are they? They had the 3rd most of any school.
Tied for 3rd most.
Even though none of them went in the first round.
Right.
Yeah. So some depth there. But as far as Saints pick, Jeff, what's the pick that maybe, let's say outside of Davenport, what's the pick that you liked the most from the Saints draft?
Outside of Davenport.
Outside of Davenport.
I'd probably say Will Clapp. I like Triquan Smith a lot. I think he's been compared, like I said, to Allen Robinson. He's a guy that the thing I liked most about him was his work ethic and character. A lot of high grades there. I think very well respected in the locker room. I think the NFL draft scouts said, here's what they said about him: unassuming personality, well respected for his team mentality and coachability, durable, played in every game of his college career, highly productive. Those are the kind of guys I like. There's going to be, I think, a very low ceiling for him. He may not end up being Allen Robinson, but he's not going to be a bust. He's going to be a contributing player, and the Saints have a history of being able to take these mid-round wide receivers and get a lot of production out of him. And I think down the road he'll end up replacing Ted Ginn Jr. maybe next year.
So you're liking Clapp and the Smith pick.
Yeah, those are the two I like. The other ones just seem like kind of rolls of the dice to me.
I like the Jamerson pick, the Natrell Jamerson. Like I said, I feel like maybe they got stuck into going in that pick because they could have used a Conklin and they could have used a Tim Settle. Both of those guys went within 5 picks before the Saints went. I just feel like Jamerson comes in. He seems very versatile. They look at him as a cornerback, and he's played safety. He can return kicks, which is something they're probably looking at as well. That's why maybe I frowned upon a little bit the Cameron Moore pick next, because if they like Jamerson as a corner, why'd you take another corner right after? So maybe that one I kind of puzzled with. I think the Boston Scott pick of Louisiana Tech, I think that's a smart pick. They need a number 3 running back. And what my quick reaction after the pick, and someone said, oh, well, he reminds me of Darren Sproles. Well, I said, well, I'm not putting those expectations on him just because of his size. That's why you're reminded of him.
There's a lot of small guys out there.
Right. I look at him as Aaron Stecker. If he comes in and he could be the number 3 running back behind the number 1 and 1A, a la when Stecker was behind Deuce and Reggie Bush, you could see, okay, Stecker, he could fill in either role, not as good as either one, but he could fill in a pinch if either one of those guys goes down. Scott, I feel like, can fill in a pinch if either Ingram or Kamara happen to go down. I feel like that was a smart. He's productive, and he's kind of the guy who can do that. Play special teams as well. He's a kick returner with the Bulldogs.
Yeah, it seemed to me like the late picks all had one little thing in their resume or in their portfolio, distinguishing trait that the Saints lacked on the roster, and that's why they got drafted. These are very much niche players that they can use and help add to the team, but they're not going to be regulars. That's why I think a lot of these guys are going to end up being role players, but it's a role that the Saints right now lack on the roster.
Yeah, absolutely. Clyde, what do you think?
I actually am going very much along with your lines, Larry. I think, first of all, I'm gonna pick Davenport just because what I find so interesting about
that's not part of the game.
It's not part of the game.
Davenport.
Crap. All right. Sorry.
We all like Davenport.
Well, at the same time, though, when I don't understand how you could pick a guy who is the Conference USA Defensive Player of the Year and then have people say, "Oh, well, this might be." Get out of here. I mean, he was the best player in an entire conference on defense. Whatever. However, no, I agree with you. I actually like the Boston Scott pick too. And when I heard it, I was like, for me specifically, I think what I enjoy seeing, mainly because I guess I just had that mentality, is like kids or players who come from these not necessarily smaller schools, but schools that don't get as much notoriety as, obviously, if you're playing in the SEC, the ACC, Pac-12, or Big 12, whatnot, what have you. These kids are on a different level. They have to make it work on a different level than some of the rest of these guys did. Because, obviously, unless you go to Alabama and you're one of 12 NFL draft selections, you're going to have to work a little bit harder than a lot of other schools. You're going to have to do. So, I really do like the Boston Scott pick because of the versatility he could bring on both as the number 3 running back and then on special teams, which I guess that's also the question I had for you guys too. One of the things that struck me at the end of Saturday's draft was the ESPN guys, because that's what I was watching. I was watching the ESPN level of the draft. They were talking specifically about how teams are now trying to I guess there's a lot of talk about what's going to happen to kickoffs in the next few years.
Right.
And how either NFL teams and organizations are now looking at the value of players, because if you are taking away what the kickoff and kickoff coverage and kickoffs can do, then teams are kind of looking at players differently than they had been previously.
I think that's a good point. I've been wondering when that happens, you lose jobs, basically. You're not having to go necessarily, I need this special teams guy. I mean, I guess you can always have punt returns, but
right.
Kickoff returns, a kick returner is kind of a different kind of a guy than a punt returner, and all these coverage, you don't need them. They're not as valuable. So I think that's a good point. I'm curious to see how this goes in the future. All right, let's take a break right here on the show. When we get back, we'll talk LSU picks, maybe Tulane picks as well. I love the Perry Nickerson pick. Ade Aruna got drafted as well, but, of course, plenty of LSU players got drafted. And Danny Etling, next Tom Brady, yeah! Forget Garoppolo. Forget him. Forget Brian Hoyer. Danny Etling. He's going to have so many Super Bowl rings on his hand, and it's going to be because of him, not Tom Brady. Look out. Clyde's just shaking his head.
I was waiting for the Tom Brady. It's been real.
It's been real, right? That could be next. Once they get to, like, mini camp, Tom might be – I tap out.
I've seen enough.
Yeah,
I'm
41
time to retire.
done, guys. Sorry.
Well, Brandon Hurst, is he getting picked up by anyone? Just saying. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Holder.
I have a tendency to wear my mind on my sleeve. I have a history of taking off my shirt. It's been 1 week since you looked at me. Threw your arms in the air and said you're crazy. 5 days since you tackled me. I still got the red burns on both my knees.
Assistant coach for your New Orleans Pelicans, Chris Finch.
When AD is playing with a high amount of energy, he's shooting threes, getting offensive rebounds, running in transition, it's almost impossible to guard him.
The Chris Gordy Show, weekday afternoons 2 to 4.
Hey guys, whether you're built like a power forward or a power lifter, there's one clothing store that's built to fit you, DXL. While most stores might go up to size XL, that's where we begin, with a huge selection of famous brands like Lacoste, Levi's, Brooks Brothers, and more. So finding clothes that look great and fit even better is never a hassle. Stop by one of our 200-plus DXL stores or shop DestinationXL.com. Built to fit, Built XL, DXL.
There are lots of reasons you love your deck. Staining it is probably not one of them. Choose a stain that will last for years and provide enduring beauty. Timeless stain from PPG only at the Home Depot from $44.97 a gallon. When it goes on and on, year after year, protecting your deck from everything Mother Nature can throw at it. It's been a secret of the pros for years. Now you can get in on it. Timeless stain from PPG starting at $44.97 a gallon. Exclusively at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing.
Hi, Eric Ashwood, celebrity chef Scott Craig of Katie's. Scott, you have to be excited about Katie's expanded second floor seating and private dining rooms.
Yeah, but how about my vast local sports knowledge?
You know sports, but shouldn't we be talking about your award-winning Sunday brunch?
I'd rather talk about the Saints.
How about your award-winning pizza or daily specials?
How about them Saints?
I admit you have a great take on local sports, but what about Katie's award-winning menu?
Okay, folks, I invite you to dine at Katie's. Eric and I don't have to brag about the food at Katie's. The food speaks for itself.
Katie's open 7 days a week in the heart of Mid-City at 3701 Opperfield.
The Cleveland Cavaliers are through to the second round of the NBA playoffs. LeBron James with 45 points as Cleveland tops Indiana 105-101 in Game 7 of their first-round matchup in the LAN. Cavaliers forward LeBron James says the Pacers gave them all they could handle.
Kudos and a big shout-out to the Indiana Pacers, first of all. You know, they were tough.
Next up, the Cavaliers play Toronto in the West Sunday. The Rockets top the Jazz 110-96 at home in Game 1 of their second-round series. Capitals and Predators, both Game 2 winners in the second round of their Stanley Cup playoff matchups. Washington skated past Pittsburgh 4-1 in D.C. to even that best of 7 at 1. In the West, Nashville outlasted visiting Winnipeg 5-4 in double overtime to knot that series at a game apiece. The red-hot Yankees edged the Angels 2-1 in Anaheim to win their 9th straight game Sunday, and Joey Logano celebrating his first victory in nearly a year after winning the Geico 500 Sunday at Talladega Motor Speedway. That's sports. Jake Corwin, NBC News Radio.
Listen and imagine. It takes 5 seconds to send a text, and for those 5 seconds, you're driving blind. Life is worth more than a text. Stay alive. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Plenty of LSU players been drafted since we last spoke on Friday. As of that point, no LSU players were taken in round 1. Round 2 through 7, several LSU players. Who would have thunk at this point last year that Dante Jackson would be the first LSU player drafted in the 2018 NFL draft? I'd say about a quarter to no one. No one would have said Dante Jackson, first player from LSU taken. No chance, no way, no how, nada. But good for the Riverdale alum, local product. He went 55 to the Carolina Panthers. And it seems like a lot of these LSU guys, they all went and stayed within the division. Quite a few of them.
Naturally, because of course, if you're an NFC South team in the region where you're probably going to hardcore heavily be able to cover LSU pretty easily, whether or not Tampa Bay,
except
obviously
if you're
come
the
to Florida,
Saints.
Except for the Saints, because again, remember the Saints don't like LSU players.
They don't have to draft. They don't have to draft an LSU player till 2026. They've met their 8-year quota.
Is that the average?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, let's see. 2004 was Devry. Then 2010, Al Woods. So that's only 6 years. So they waited 8 years this time. So 2024, 2026, maybe that's the next
Well,
one.
if you pass on Al, it means at least then either next year or the next 2 years, the Saints will win the Super Bowl. So let's do it.
Oh, boy.
Let's do it. Call it.
Let's hit the phone lines real quick. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved here on the show. Dave, who do we got again? I'm losing you all day today. Brian in Texas, the entire state. What's up, Brian? Thanks for calling. What you got?
How you doing, sir? I was calling in today to talk about Marie Hurst. Why didn't you pick up Marie Hurst, sir? Can you tell me a little bit why that? Because, I mean, for a 4th-round pick, that could have been a steal. You're going to have him for 4 years, and he's just going to come in and just play. So y'all can talk a little more about that one?
Sure. Brian. Yeah, look, I think, and I put this out on Twitter leading into day 3 because I knew people were going to be asking. A lot of people thought of him as a first-round talent. Why not take a gamble on him? And I think the Nick Fairley situation with the heart ailment, how they Saints basically, I don't want to say got burned because you don't. If he's got a heart issue, you don't want to put him at risk. But I feel like the Nick Fairley situation was totally the reason why they did not go with Maurice Hurst or even really ponder him.
Yeah, and they weren't alone. I mean, a lot of teams passed on him. Probably, I would say the answer would have been, Brian, their medical staff probably didn't, or probably red flagged him to the point where he may have come off their board. I don't know that, but I'm just guessing that a lot of teams didn't want any part of that.
Except for the Raiders.
Right. Certain teams were willing to do it. Certain teams aren't. It's not just Maurice Hurst, or it's a lot of players probably had medical grades that prevented teams from taking that risk. When you're investing a lot of money, time, and resources, a lot goes into that. And medical, of course, is a big part of it.
All right, Darius Geis at 59. Of course, that was the drama throughout day 2. Jeff, what do you make of the Darius Geis situation?
I think he somehow word got out about him being a question mark that teams didn't feel comfortable with. That's the only thing I can think of. There was a lot of smoke there about his off-the-field questions, and teams don't just sit there and read the internet and come up with this. I mean, they've interviewed him. They've talked to people around him. They do a lot of background work on these players. I mean, it's almost like CIA-level investigations. So this is not a case of teams saying, oh, he was quirky and I read about it on the internet. I mean, they don't take – that's not the level of investigatory work that they do.
And some of the reporting that came out was that he embellished or even just made up the things about being questioned about if he liked men or if his mom was a prostitute.
We talked about that last week on the show. I mean, how do you make that up? I mean, you got to. It's a
switching of agents too. All of this happened.
It's going to scare people off.
Honestly, if a team was going to take a chance, it would be Washington. It seems like they take a chance on player all the time. Do I think he can come in and be an awesome NFL player? Yes. Do I think he walks into Washington and is their number 1 running back? I don't think there's any question. But maybe some teams aren't willing to take the risk of a possible incident. I mean, that's the nature of the NFL draft. All right, DJ Chark with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think that's a great fit. Now, which quarterback's better throwing in the football, Etling or Blake Bortles? Who you got, Jeff?
I'll go with Blake Bortles.
Are you sure?
Yes.
But Danny Etling is the next Tom Brady.
I like Blake Bortles. I think he gets a bad rap. He only took the team to the AFC Championship game.
He didn't take them
took
there.
Took the team to the AFC Championship game.
He did not.
Took the team to the. It's
Have
on
you seen
record.
their defense?
It's on record.
Have you seen Leonard Fournette?
On record, Blake Bortles was the starting quarterback in the AFC Championship game.
They are so confident.
Trent Dilfer and Brad Johnson are Super Bowl winning quarterbacks.
On record.
Brought
And they
him
are
there.
so confident they signed him to a 1-year deal.
So I'm just telling you, he's the starting quarterback in the AFC Championship game.
You can keep your record.
Tanner Lee is now the third quarterback there behind Cody Kessler.
He might throw fewer picks than Bortles, and he threw a ton of them at Nebraska, former Jesuit and Tulane player. Arden Key, 87 to the Raiders. We figured he'd fall into the 3rd round. John Gruden taking Arden Key. He takes Maurice Hurst. Any of these red flag players, he's bringing back the old Raiders, John Gruden.
Well, he says he wants to take it back old school, so
I guess
there's only one way to do it.
This whole John Gruden in Oakland tenure campaign, whatever you want to call it, is going to be fascinating, I think. I mean, they're going to be
television.
Yeah, they're going to be fun to watch. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. That thing could implode, but it's going to be great theater.
LSU's next player came off. Now I'm scanning. Where did they go? Where did Russell Gage go? He went to Atlanta. Which round?
He went to the
he went to Atlanta at 194.
194, round 6. So Russell Gage, they've got themselves another little weapon they could use. Also, Danny Etling, like I said, 7th round, 219 to the Patriots.
You get $2 million, possibly.
Well, if he rounds out his whole contract.
Yeah, right.
And then Will Clapp, of course, to the Saints at 245. And so those are your LSU picks. Did I miss anyone?
No, you didn't.
All right. I didn't think so. All right, let's hit the phone lines real quick, and then we got to take another break. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. Let's go to Metairie and talk with Ed. Hey, Ed, thanks for calling Dunc and Holder. What you got?
Hey, I'm always interested in undrafted free agents, and I was wondering if any of the players the Saints picked up you think might sneak onto a roster or a practice squad. Also, there were several local players that were selected as undrafted free agents, and I'd like some remarks on them.
All right, appreciate the phone call. And I know a couple of Rummel Raiders, last I saw, were undrafted rookies that signed with some squads. I got to look that up right off the top of my head. But, Jeff, you were pointing to the tight end as far as the Saints, that since they missed out on that in the draft, they invested significant dollars in undrafted rookie free agency. And it's something that's funny that Sean Payton brings up a lot. Don't necessarily go chase the money if you're an undrafted rookie, but if someone's going to give you, $90,000 to sign and or guaranteed you somewhere near $100,000, I think that's the smart choice.
That's a lot of money for an undrafted free agent. Says what the Saints thought of him, and clearly they made his agent feel the love, if you will. I mean, they know that there's a chance that somebody in this depth chart right now is not going to be on the team, and I'm talking about Kobe Fleener. He may not be with this team in after June 1. He may still. They may bring him to camp, but there's a chance that he could be released because of the salary cap, because of his health concerns, and so there could be a roster spot for Yelder out of Western Kentucky. And he's kind of a F-back type of guy, a move tight end, not a big guy, but more of a receiving threat than just a traditional tight end.
Yes, and look, could he be maybe a practice squad guy? I could see that too, because if you do cut ties with Kobe Fleener, you still have 3 veteran tight ends on your roster. You would have Ben Watson, you'd have Josh Hill, you would have Michael Ho'omanawanui, and that would certainly be fine and viable for your tight end spot.
Where's Clay Harbor?
Last I checked, we need to check on production.
Yeah,
Bachelorette production. We need to check on that. Jeff.
I'll go check on it right now.
Actually, that's more of a Clyde thing, I would think.
I did not watch last night's episode of Southern Charm New Orleans, so we're going to push that to Tuesday.
I'm going to push that to
Just
Tuesday.
let everybody know. I got to watch that DVR tonight. We're going to push to Tuesday, guys.
Too much George Benson for you at the Jazz tent.
And it's not a surprise. I actually went somewhere, got some fantastic culture, as opposed to watching that and feeling woefully less culture.
You're the one who wants your 45-second segment every week, so you asked for it.
I'm just saying.
That's your fault.
I think it adds some color to the show as a whole.
All right, we'll talk Pelicans, Warriors, and wrap up the Zurich Classic of New Orleans as well. So come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This report is brought to you by River City Total Maintenance.
From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz. Today on your Monday should be a nice day, mostly sunny, but a little warmer. The high temp at about 82 to 83. Now tonight, overnight lows drop to the lower 60s, so nice but not as cool. And then for Tuesday, another partly cloudy day, going to be dry at 84. Wednesday, partly cloudy at 85, so we do see a gradual warming trend with no mention of rain all the way through the midweek. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz with your Weather Authority forecast.
It's getting hot, so make sure you're not. Take advantage of our $69 spring special. Call River City's Total Maintenance now, 504-841-3300 to schedule your air conditioning maintenance today.
There are lots of reasons you love your deck. Staining it is probably not one of them. Choose a stain that will last for years and provide enduring beauty. Timeless stain from PPG only at the Home Depot from $44.97 a gallon. When it goes on and on, year after year, protecting your deck from everything Mother Nature can throw at it. It's been a secret of the pros for years. Now you can get in on it. Timeless stain from PPG starting at $44.97 a gallon. Exclusively at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing.
Nothing changes America like a role model. I had one growing up. My name is John Hope Bryant. I wear a suit today because my dad wore a suit when I was growing up. But kids want to be rap stars, athletes, and drug dealers all too often because that's what they see in their neighborhood. My mission now is to give them something different to see, and you play a role in it. It's called America 2020 and Hope Business in a Box Academies. Go to OperationHope.org today and join the movement to make school cool once again. Visit us on the web at operationhope.org.
Flo here with a really weird word, buttery. Buttery? It's not quite butter, it's more butterish. Or maybe buttery is like butchery or bakery, a shop that sells artisanal butter products. Dig in, America. Now a word that's even more weird, Flotection. Sure, it's not really a word, but it is really good protection for your new home through me and Progressive. No ifs, ands, or butteries about it. Sorry.
Save an average of 17% on car insurance when you bundle home and auto through Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Discount not available in all states or situations.
A study says Google's virtual assistant is smarter than Amazon's. Digital marketing company Stone Temple says Google's assistant attempted the most responses and gets the most attempted responses correct of the nearly 5,000 questions asked in the study. Surprisingly, Microsoft's Cortana took second place, with Amazon's Alexa trailing both and Siri lagging far behind the rest. Of attempted responses, all smart speakers got over 80% of the responses correct. Facebook is adding a sleep mode to its Messenger for Kids app. When activated from the parent's account, access to sending or receiving messages or video calls will be blocked. Parents can set times for whenever they want, like bedtime or dinner. Pinterest will now let users filter hair and beauty search results by skin tone ranges as a way to make it easier to find what you might be looking for. The social media platform says 70% of people use the service to find and save everyday looks and styles. Tech Report, Larry Olson, NBC News Radio.
Freakazoids, robots, please report to the dance floor.
Going deep on the teams you care about. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Jeff's about to get onto the break dance floor here.
O-I-D-S. Freakazoid.
Man, you sound just like them. No wonder you're sitting next to us doing radio, talk radio.
Cool synthesizer voice box.
Redskins are making a comeback, Larry.
Voice box.
Yeah, they're coming back somewhere. All right, sure. Duncan Holder here. Some local products also being taken. Perry Nickerson to the Jets in the 5th round. Ade Aruna from Tulane as well, going to the Vikings in the 7th round. Dontrell Hilliard, an undrafted rookie contract with the Browns. I'm still efforting. I don't know where Sherman Beatty went. I swear I saw he got signed somewhere. Someone do the research. I can't find it unless I just don't know how to spell his name. I'm losing my mind. I don't know. Claude's shaking his head at me. Why? What did I do?
No, I'm not saying anything. I actually was not saying anything to you.
For once?
Yeah, for once.
Exactly.
So consider yourself lucky right now.
All right, good. I am lucky. All right, let's switch gears. Pelicans, Warriors. Pelicans going down 123-101 in Golden State. Game 2 is tomorrow night. I'm sure we'll catch up with our own Will Guillory throughout the week. Look, the series isn't over. They lost Game 1. They know they need to make some adjustments. But I think it's kind of a shell shock when you saw the second quarter of that game, and it got away in a hurry. Warriors played well. They weren't missing anything. Pelicans had trouble just staying with them on defense. And if you're going to get into a shootout with the Warriors, you got to score more than 101 points. And once that second quarter was over, Game 1 was over. Everyone knew it.
They got to figure out how to guard Kevin Durant. I think we talked about it before the series. It was going to be a matchup problem for them going in, and it clearly was a problem for them on Saturday night. I don't know if they have anybody on the roster that can check him. I really don't. Not too many teams in the league do.
There's a reason why he's one of the best players in the world.
But he's just a matchup problem for them. And I think AD, that first of all, they had some good coverage, defensive coverage on both AD and Drew Holiday, made things difficult for them. When they did score, they had to earn it. They didn't get a lot of cheap stuff. So I think the Warriors' defense was a little underrated in that game. I think what the Pels end up with 101. It's way below what they've been scoring lately. I know they didn't shoot that well, and that was the message out of the locker room yesterday was, hey, we had open looks that we normally have been knocking down, and we just missed them. So that, I think, is a silver lining, is they felt like they were getting good shots, and maybe they knock them down in Game 2. I think they're going to play a lot better in Game 2. I don't think there's any doubt about it.
Well, do we have an update on Steph Curry? Do we know if he's playing, or what's the story there?
Well, he says, he's playing. As a matter of fact, he said his basic job in this game is to not suck.
So he's going to play game 2.
He's saying he is, yes.
Oh, boy.
So, it didn't surprise me he didn't play in game 1 just because they kind of were leaving that door open, and I think they wanted to kind of throw off the Pelicans a little bit, and it kind of did. Alvin Gentry said they had a plan A and a plan B, but they thought plan A was Steph Curry, but in the end, I think Golden State just played very well. That's the best I've seen them play in the playoffs. That was the best game they played, I think.
Yeah, you're probably right. Well, they also probably felt like they needed to elevate their game because they knew they had the Spurs number. The Spurs were coming in reeling, and the thing is with them, look, they knew what they could do with the Spurs, and they kind of probably sleptwalked through a few of those games and were just fine. But they come in seeing what the Pelicans did in round 1. I'm sure they felt like, all right, guys, it's time to crank this thing up. And you could say, oh, some teams you can't flip a switch. Well, the Warriors are the defending champions, and they can flip a switch. They're capable of doing that. And then they're going to add Steph Curry to this. And, of course, we're all going to watch. But I don't feel as great about I don't think any of us thought that the Pelicans were going to go in and win the series. Am I wrong? Did any of us think that they were going to go in and win this series?
I think you would have needed to have a few more things happen. I think you would have had to win game 1, in my opinion, for the Pelicans to have a real legitimate chance of. I still think they're going to make the series interesting. I don't think it's going to end in 5. I think it actually goes 6, in my opinion. I think it actually comes back here to New Orleans. But I don't think that in the context of this game, which I don't think you can't throw this out, but obviously, number 1, the disparity in foul calls and free throws. Number 2, the Warriors shot 41% from 3. That's an insane number. You got Draymond Green with a triple-double. I honestly think that Steph Curry, if he's reinserted in the lineup, my thing has been since he's been out, now he has missed close to 40 games. I think that the Warriors have had to learn how to play without him. And now when he comes back in, now granted, he is a 2-time MVP, he's a 2-time champion. I'm not discrediting what he can do. But as a team, when you lose one of your best players, you have to learn to live life without him. That's what the Pelicans have done. That's what the Warriors have had to do. And if he comes back in the lineup, that changes how they operate completely and totally. So Nick Young, obviously he goes back to the bench. And how they rotationally move, for me, it's going to be interesting to see how they do that with Steph Curry back in the lineup. Because a report yesterday on ESPN, it was either yesterday or a couple days ago, after their practice, they feel like watching practice, it's not like Steph Curry is the explosive Steph Curry. Like, it's almost as if he's doing a lot to try to protect that knee. He's not as like that. He's not as strong with that knee. So I'm not saying that he's not going to be 100% or be Steph Curry. I just think that there are some things that you can watch out for in this series if he comes back, and what you can possibly do, hopefully, in your rotations that need to be a lot better to at least even it up maybe tomorrow or at least by game 3.
Or maybe he is 100% and they waited for him to be totally 100%.
Also
he
true.
Comes out and he scores 50 tomorrow night. I don't know. But all I know is
that would be devastating.
That would be a crusher. If he just comes out of his suit, rips off the breakaway suit and says, I'm going to score 50, and Kevin Durant just takes a nap or something. But no. Are the Pelicans certainly capable of turning around game 2? Sure. But they've got to do a little bit of soul searching just because it's the first time they've been knocked off this pedestal in the playoffs. And this is what they got. It's boxing. Basically, they got a knockdown punch, and they need to stand up. And because I feel like if they lose game 2, maybe they can come back and win 1 here in New Orleans. But it's going to be a tall order. If you go down 2-0 to the defending champs and Steph Curry's back, this game 2 is critical.
I don't know if y'all feel this way. I really feel like the first quarter of game 2 is going to be critical. They've got to come in. They got to hang in there, look the Warriors in the eye, and say, we're not going away.
And I thought they did that in the first quarter of game 1, so I was thinking, okay, this is going to be good. And then it...
Right.
That's why I think that second quarter is not so much a pinpoint of saying, like, this is what the rest of the series is going to look like. I think that was the Warriors turning on the juice and turning on the gas to say, we're here, we're not going anywhere, we deserve as much respect. And that's why I think the Pelicans, because that kind of quarter where you're talking about a 30-2 run, where you're talking about, going and almost having 70 points in the after the first 2 quarters. I don't think that on average is going to happen in this series more often than not. And another thing that if I were the Pelicans that I'd be taking a little bit more salt to is the Warriors postgame talking about quote unquote gimmicky defenses. That was one word that I think Draymond used in the postgame, and what I think either Kevin Durant or somebody else used postgame in the press conference was how they saw what the Pelicans did against the Trailblazers and defensively and said, the word gimmicky was used multiple times. And I was like, if I'm the Pelicans, I'm going to show you a gimmick. I just think their rotations were awful. Like them rotating to, and you know what the Warriors are going to do? The Warriors are going to try to kick it around, especially with Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson. Draymond Green had a fantastic game. You got to rattle him. You got to get in his head. Like someone.
If Draymond Green's hitting threes.
Yeah, that's when you know it's just not your night.
Trouble.
It's not your night, man. Like and you can chalk that up
with
to
with his awkward looking shot he hit the three.
Right?
I said, this one's
that's
going.
He only hit
1 3.
I know, but still,
1 3.
But the fact he feels good about taking one.
I think bigger than now was 15 rebounds, 11 assists.
Sure, I know.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm just saying.
But it's one of those things that you look at and you're like, man, like that's a play that I think, specifically if you're the Pelicans too, you just feel like, man, what else can we do?
Right.
Like when he's on and you've got Klay Thompson shooting lights out, and then like the further you get into that, the less and less you are willing to go on the limb on defense. I think that showed a couple times in that second quarter and throughout the rest of the game.
Yeah, we're going to dive more into the Pelicans-Warriors, obviously, tomorrow. Look, the NFL draft is big today, so we jumped into it. But, of course, plenty of Pelicans. They got plenty more games, so we're going to talk about that. Final segment, let's kind of wrap up the Zurich Classic of New Orleans. Big-time winner, Billy Horschel, and Jeff, I only know that guy. Who's the other guy who won? Sorry.
Scott Piercy.
All right. I only know Billy Horschel because he's won before.
Well, he's the marquee guy in that team.
Exactly. So, all right. We'll talk about Zurich Classic. Final segment coming up here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Holder.
I don't blame it on the moonlight. I don't blame it on the good times. Blame it on a boogie.
Josh and his show Listener Bingo Board.
Some of the squares include Trump joins the show.
Trump does join the show a lot.
My dad, the term insufferable. Oh, a sentence that starts with when I was in Philly.
Boy. This guy really pays attention to the show.
Josh Innes, mornings 6 to 10 on Sports 1280.
Moms have a superpower we like to call Mom Magic.
Mom Magic.
And now, Navy Federal Credit Union has a way to help moms get even more with the More Rewards American Express card.
Works like magic.
With triple points on groceries, moms can turn a year's worth of trips to the supermarket into a trip to Hawaii.
Super-powered rewards.
Visit NavyFederal.org to sign up now. Open to everyone in the armed forces, the DoD, veterans, and their families. Federally insured by NCUA. American Express is a registered service mark of American Express used by Navy Federal under license.
There are lots of reasons you love your deck. Staining it is probably not one of them. Choose a stain that will last for years and provide enduring beauty. Timeless stain from PPG only at the Home Depot from $44.97 a gallon. When it goes on and on, year after year, protecting your deck from everything Mother Nature can throw at it. It's been a secret of the pros for years. Now you can get in on it. Timeless stain from PPG starting at $44.97 a gallon. Exclusively at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing.
When you're behind the wheel, phone calls and text messages can have deadly consequences. It's no accident. Road crashes are preventable. Drivers who use cell phones are 4 times more likely to be involved in car wrecks. Stay focused. When you get in the car, put your phone out of reach and silence all notifications. And always set destinations on navigation devices before you leave, because fewer distractions means safer roads for everyone. Take the pledge not to drive distracted at togetherforsaferroads.org/pledge.
I'm KFC's Extra Crispy Colonel, and you're the extra busy regular person who has to make dinner for a family of 4. But you can shirk that responsibility because my Extra Crispy Tenders $20 fill-up from KFC contains 12 extra crispy chicken tenders, 4 dipping sauces, 4 biscuits, 2 orders of mashed potatoes, and a side of coleslaw for just $20. And now that'll feed them. KFC, it's extra crispy good.
Pricing and participation may vary. Tax and substitutions extra.
The 8th annual Lemonade Day is set to take place Saturday, May 5th. Lemonade Day is a free, fun, experiential learning program that teaches kids how to start, own, and operate their very own business, a lemonade stand. Registration and participation for Lemonade Day are free, and all youngsters are encouraged to participate. To sign up, learn about ways to get involved, or to see a complete list of sponsors, visit lemonadeday.org/Louisiana. That's the 8th annual Lemonade Day on May 5th.
Get a true cinematic experience right on your laptop with the Dell XPS 13, powered by 8th Gen Intel Core processors and featuring new Dell Cinema technology with incredible color, sound, and streaming. For more information, call 1-800-BUY-DELL.
Dunc and Older Now. Eric Asher next at noon on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Jeff's right during the break. Before we wrap up the Zurich Classic, we could talk about Baker Mayfield, Marcus Davenport, Danny Etling, Trey Quinn. Who's the biggest bust in the NFL draft? Jeff's right. It was the Parrot in Tampa.
Actually, a macaw.
Whatever. Toucan Sam didn't deliver the goods. Supposed to deliver the pick, and then people on Twitter were saying, oh, they just said deliver. So what? The Parrot, macaw, Toucan Sam, whatever, didn't even put the draft card in its mouth. It didn't speak. It didn't do the draft card. Total bust. Total bust. What a joke.
I would expect nothing less for the Buccaneers organization than to have something like that happen on draft day.
For the record, the macaw is named Jaja. So
like Jaja Gabor?
Yes.
Right. Same person, maybe.
Got a little stage fright. Happens. Like we said, Vince Young called Harold Landry.
Harold Landry.
Honor Landry.
Honor Landry. I mean, how does that happen?
I don't know.
It's not even close. It's like two letters the same.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
Winners of the draft, clearly former Eagles kicker, David Akers.
I believe a Louisville graduate.
Well, shout out to Louisville because clearly he got the entirety of AT&T Stadium riled up after what happened last year in Philadelphia. So shout out to him. Shout out to the Bills fan who got to come up on stage, the one who was battling cancer.
Lucha Libre dude?
Yeah. Like Pancho Villa, I think that's how they say it. And then losers, obviously, Vince Young, because he can't read, which is so sad. This McCall. And who else? I mean, are there any other losers from this draft that we can, at least a part of the draft?
What are you talking about?
Like just losers who just messed up epically on stage.
Well, Vince Young.
I just named him.
And the Parrot. Jaja.
I just named him too.
The Carolina. I think it's a girl.
Whatever.
Named her.
Stinks.
She got stage fright.
So a lot of lights going. Get the hook.
A lot of lights.
Sam Van Sims, man.
People looking at you. I can see how that.
It's a bird, dude.
Instead of that, maybe they should have just shot the cannon and woke the macaw up.
Yeah.
Wake up.
Or instead of it, shoot the cannon at something, and then it announces the pick in some epic fashion or something. I don't know. Do it in smoke. I don't know. It would have been better than that. It would have been better than a stupid bird.
No, the bird blew it.
Birds
anyway,
are dumb.
Total bird brain. All right, Zurich Classic. Big time event. Wrapped up. Record crowds. Renewal of the sponsorship for Zurich. But, of course, two-time winner now, Billy Horschel and the other guy. Who's the other guy?
Scott Pearson.
Yeah, that guy. Okay, so they won same amount of prize money. But, look, it's the tournament sounds like it was definitely a success as we were out there because I was only out there Thursday, Friday. Jeff, you were out there all weekend. Just your quick overall thoughts on the tournament. And, I of course, a lot of the talk was walk-up music, and you said it a little while earlier, but needs to be tweaked a little bit.
Well, just to touch on the walk-up music, I think the PGA Tour and the 4Kids Foundation know this was going to be an experiment the first year, see how it worked. I think there's some tweaking in the process. Do they announce? The way they did it, they introduced the team, the two members of the team, and then the music would play, and it usually is about 10 to 15 seconds. It wasn't very long, and then they would tee off. in the one player, I'm trying to remember who it was, actually teed off while the music was playing. It was California Love by Tupac, one of my favorite songs ever.
That would put me in rhythm.
Yeah.
So he teed off while the music was going on. It didn't bother him at all. But I think there's a little bit of concern from some of the players because they're very routine-oriented golfers, obviously, and they have a certain routine they go through on the tee box, especially before their very first tee, and they don't like to veer out of it. So there's going to have to be some tweaking to how they do it. I would like to see them somehow announce the players, have them come out to the music, the walk-up music, through some kind of tunnel, and maybe have a chance to do their practice swings off to the side behind some kind of wall or something so they can get their rhythm and then come out. But I think they got a little work to do. But the tournament overall, huge hit, huge crowds out there yesterday, probably set records. And then the announcement that Zurich's staying on through 2026, that's the biggest news because that's the group that writes the big check. And as long as they're writing that big check, that tournament's going to be very, very profitable.
And some of the bigger names, though, missed the cut. Jordan Spieth and Ryan Palmer, they doubled their last 2 holes and missed the cut.
Spieth did not play well there at the end, left some shots that he'd like to have back, and pretty much prevented them from making a run. And I like the new format, the way it ends with alternate shot. As we saw yesterday, the group that won, Billy Horschel and Scott Piercy, they came from 4 or 5 strokes back to win because that's the way it sets up with that alternate shot. It's much harder than the best ball.
You could definitely see the difference in rounds 1 and 3 to 2 and 4. Definitely a huge swing, which makes for the tournament to be very interesting. All right, we're done on a Monday. Jeff will be gone till the rest of eternity, I think. I don't know when you're coming back.
I'll be back after the Derby for a couple of days.
For like a day.
Yeah.
And then you go globetrotting again.
And I'll check in tomorrow from Louisville at the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah,
draw.
we'll have that news. Where's Lone Sailor going to be lining up? We'll have all that as the show goes on. So we'll talk with Jeff. We'll talk about Pelicans, Warriors, as well as Clyde and I will hold down the fort tomorrow. So come on back. Eric Asher coming up next. Sports1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Holder.
Let me welcome everybody to the